as we're greeting all of our guests, I just want to send a really big, warm welcome to every single person in the community, because whether you're watching this live or you see it on YouTube or you get the details from the Weber Weekly on Monday, these are really trying times for everybody. So I just want to put out there that I'm very grateful to be a representative of the parents, and I'm really grateful that you are all so supportive, and we'll get through it together, whatever this is, the next iteration. We've got each other's backs, and that's the most important thing. So thank you. And as we are welcoming our guests, I want to say hi. And just everyone can just mute yourselves as you join. I'll let you, since we have an officer today, I'll use this pun. You can police yourselves on the mute channel. Try and remain muted until we get to the question and answer period. That'd be terrific. And we'll periodically go and check if there's a need for muting later. And we'll definitely get to questions, and you're going to be able to voice your opinion and have your voice heard. You can also type them into the chat later on. So welcome everybody. As everyone's slowly joining, I'll give you like the kind of the overview of the meeting. We're going to jump in with an awesome conversation with Officer Groshans, who Beth Javeline is going to introduce. And we're going to talk about the social media perils that may or may not be facing you, or the challenges you might have with your teen on social media, or even your younger child who's just starting to get on social media. And then we're going to talk about what's new at Weber, like what is going on with the school, what's going on with sports. Principal Javeline will have, as much information as she can offer. She's such a wonderful resource. And we'll just do a little bit of HSA update. So with that said, just going to make sure everyone's muted. Alana, I'll have you help me with that. And it might be helpful to put your view on either gallery or speaker view, if that's helpful. So it's officially 9 o'clock. Welcome everybody. This is, it's spring, so that at least there's proof transformation. It can be really positive. And with that, I want to just give you a couple of really good updates on the HSA. I want you to look forward to, in May, we're going to be hosting a Move-A-Thon. So the weather's great. We want every kid outside, and we want to encourage that by hosting a really fun community and grandparent inspired Move-A-Thon. We want everyone to kind of get off their seats and get outside and just start moving. So that's going to be in May. So keep your eyes out for information on that. We'd really love everyone's participation. And the cool thing is it's going to be a fundraiser for some of the equipment for the new courtyards and for the new gym area. We have a whole new gym wing area section. And that's going to be part of the fundraising effort. So it's a really important thing to be a part of. So I look forward to that in May. And thank you for everyone who donated. I did a really beautiful bagel breakfast for the teachers on Friday, and I think it was really well received. Schmear sponsored it, and they did such a wonderful COVID safe job. They individually wrapped each bagel and they labeled it beautifully, so everyone could just grab the one thing and go. So thank you to Schmear, and thanks to all of you parents who donated. We'll probably do another teacher appreciation small thing in May, because that is Teacher Appreciation Week. So stay tuned for that as well. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce the team. So I'm Kathy, if you don't know, Kathy Riva-Bloomgarden and Alana Engel. We're the co-presidents of Weber HSA. And we would be nothing without the amazing staff at Weber. So I'd like to take a minute and just say hi to Mr. Mace, who's the principal of Yellow House and Red 6. And
that
then
is correct.
I'm looking for all the faces here, but I'm going to say hi. I'm going to introduce Mr. Thornton. He is just temporarily in the building replacing Miss Zuckerman, who just had a baby. So we should send her lots of well wishes for a newborn. And Mr. Thornton is really a familiar face at Weber. He's been in and out of the building for a very long time. So just want to say welcome to him. He's Blue House. He is also Red 8.
Correct.
Yay! Anyway, welcome, Mr. Thornton, to the building. It's such a pleasure to have you. So if you have any questions for Blue House, he is the contact us for the next few months. And Mr. Ciccone, I don't see Mr. Ciccone's face, but he is the representative and assistant principal for the greenhouse, and he's a terrific resource. He also does Red 7. So he can say, if he's on, say hi.
So we just finished up a fire drill, so we're all joining now.
Ah, okay, terrific. Well, that's good to know. Safety first. And then, of course, our fearless leader, who is, you know, basically the mom to all of our kids, Principal Beth Javeline. She is just has been such a rock in these uncertain times. So whenever the fire drill kind of wraps up and she's on, she is just a wonderful, wonderful resource. And everyone is available at any time to answer your questions via email. So don't hesitate to reach out to us or the team. That said, is Officer Groshans here yet? So we're gonna, for those of you joining, the parents just joining, I wanted to just say that we have a really packed hour today. We're gonna start off with the HSA update, introduction of the team. We're gonna introduce Officer Groshans, and we're gonna have a social media conversation, which I think is really important right now, especially with the mental health concerns we have in our community. And then we're gonna talk about all of the questions we have about Weber's future opening, not opening, and sports. So stay tuned. And your questions are really important, so we will definitely get to those as soon as possible. Then you can type them in the chat at some point in time. And just a little bit of social etiquette, just make sure you're muted until the question answer period is up. So thank you for that. And
Ms. Javeline asked me to introduce Officer Groshans. I hope John's on. I don't know. I see some background here that looks like maybe his presentation. So hopefully he's on. John Groshans served as a law enforcement officer for 32 years. He has served as a school resource officer, field training officer, police trainer, teen impact instructor, domestic violence instructor, TASER instructor. He has programs in social media, teen driving, teen decision-making, pre-prom and beyond, getting ready for the college experience, bullying and the consequences of bullying, and criminal justice classes. His presentations have been requested by educational conference, district attorney conferences, college classes, and schools throughout Nassau and Suffolk. This is my first experience with a virtual presentation, so I hope, John, are you on? If not, I will give him a quick call because I sent him the link this morning. So talk amongst yourself for a minute. I'll call John.
so while we're waiting on Officer Groshans, if you have any questions about your teen or your younger child, like any social media concerns, you know, we are looking to kind of address like the proper timing of when you jump on social media. When is it okay to let your child be out in the world? And then how do you do it safely? So those are some of the things I'd like to kind of ask myself. And then I have a 13-year-old, a daughter who, you know, has definitely seen some things on social media that is not appropriate behavior. So how do you start conversations around that? So if anyone has any questions around that, you can definitely put it in the chat. And listen, another really fun fact is we have a YouTube page. So if anyone has trouble accessing this talk this morning, if you get text from your friend saying that the Zoom is full, they can watch it live on YouTube. That's at Weber HSA on YouTube. So it's also being broadcast there. We already have like 20 people watching on YouTube. So everyone or anyone that kind of knocks on the door and needs a place to watch this, it's going to be there and it will live there. So it can be viewed as many times as you want. I'm sure you're all excited. Go pop some popcorn and like go take another hour of your day and watch it later. And it looks like Officer Groshans might be joining in a few minutes. So thank you for your patience.
Kathy, does Beth have any updates?
I just actually texted you guys. I could start answering some questions if you want while we're waiting. Just so you know, we are currently, I don't know if any of your students have shared with you, we are currently replacing the windows in the Weber part of the building, our middle building. So some of your classrooms, when the students go in, some of the windows are boarded up with wood. So what they do is they take the window out at night, and then the next night they put the window back in. So that's pretty exciting because our windows needed some updating in our building. And we were waiting for that to start. It was supposed to start last September, I believe, and we're finally getting around to it now. So that's very exciting for the building, for that aspect of it. But if there are other questions while we're waiting for Detective Groshans to join, I certainly can answer anything. Jenny.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much. I have a question regarding the desk shields. Are the desk shields removable? And if so, will they come down until we are all back in? Or are they just going to stay up indefinitely at this point?
No, so we're waiting. So right now, we're as you got the letter yesterday, we're on pause for the all in. So we're waiting for us to fully understand how and when we could bring kids back into the building and whether or not the desk shields will come down or not. So all that's being discussed. We started the conversation on Monday. We've been meeting every single day trying to understand it. We've been meeting with lawyers trying to understand it. So as soon as we have it, I agree with the kids. I agree. I've sat behind them. I've done observations behind them. They are hard. It's uncomfortable. So as long as we could keep kids safe and they could come down, they will eventually come down when it's the right time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I'm trying to get John on right now.
Okay, I figured I'd answer some questions while we're waiting. Okay, so a question from Claudia. Are they going to go back to the original plan to the only 8th grades go back in? Everything right now is up for discussion. So the new guidelines changed a lot. We had a plan. We were ready to roll out our plan. I see John. But we were ready to roll our plan for all in. So once we understand what we're able to do and capable of doing is when we will make the decision on what plan we're bringing back or what plan we're not bringing back in. And as soon as we have that, we will certainly share that with you.
Okay, John is on.
Yep, I'm going to let John go and then I will answer more questions after. So we'll see John Groshans' presentation. You'll be able to ask him questions and then afterwards we could stay on and we'll continue to do and answer more questions. So
Great.
Thank you, Detective Groshans.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is John Groshans. I was in law enforcement for 32 years, recently retired. What you're about to see now is the Internet Awareness Program for middle schools, but for the 8th grade in particular, it is basically what your 8th graders are going to see. When schools call me and they can only do one grade, I think 8th grade is the most important. Getting ready for 9th grade and that college track and some of the challenges we're facing. We have a lot of, I'm going to skip this. We're running out of time here. It's very important for me that the students understand that things they do don't ever get deleted. I understand that they trust in their privacy settings and they trust the social media and the apps are going to look out for them and take care of them, and nothing could be further from the truth. Keeping things from people like me is not hard to do. Keeping things from colleges and grad schools and jobs is a lot harder. They're very good at this. I recently did a presentation at the end. 2 guys talked to me. They own a computer company, and they said they interviewed 45 people for one job, and all 45 did not get the job because of their social media presence. We have to be very careful, and it has to start now heading into 9th grade, especially what's going on. The internet is unforgiving. It is forever potentially life-changing. We're going to get into privacy policies and settings that nothing's private. Their screen names, username tags, tag names, who they're talking to, what information they're giving out. The pandemic has seen an awful lot of grooming going on online, and we'll get into what grooming is in a little bit. And just to think before you post, and we're going to give them some tools to use before they start posting some stuff. This is one of it. Before we post something, is it true? Is it helpful? If it's hurtful, is it inspiring? Is it illegal? Is it necessary? And most of all, is it kind? And if it's not kind, don't post it. For our 8th graders heading into 9th, as they sit with their devices by themselves, regardless of what room they're in, outside, I want them to think of these 4 people before they post on their own. And that would be the parents, the police, the principal, or your college president, and your peers. Because these are who are going to be seeing your post, what you get judged by, your digital footprint. Is it a true reflection of who you really are in this world? You have the right to post what you want. You're not immune from the consequences of that post. And for the parents, on the top left, that symbol, that is an app called Discord. It's a gaming app. It was brought in because a lot of parents on the game systems had the kids blocked where they couldn't interact with the other players. And Discord was the app that went around that. So they were able to talk to people in the game systems, even though they were blocked through the game system from talking to the other player. But Discord has evolved. It's becoming a lot like TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram. It's moving on, and they're very good at it. At the bottom on the left, you're going to see the 3 guys. That's a game called Among Us, where the idea is to go around and kill people in different rooms. What's very concerning to me is in this game, people are going to flat out ask for their other account information. And that is their Instagram account, their Snapchat accounts, their TikTok accounts, and they give it out freely, not knowing who they're talking to. YouTube, we're familiar with Snapchat, Instagram. On the bottom right is that squirrel. That's UC browser. It is here. It's taken off like lightning. It's from China. It is a lightning fast browser. We all want things to be fast. The thing is, it collects an awful lot of information on us as we're using this browser. Just something to be aware of before we jump right into this UC browser world. For our 8th graders later on, when they download an app, when we signed up years ago for Facebook, we had to click a box and say, "I've read and agreed to the above terms." If you didn't click that box, you couldn't sign up for your social media accounts. It doesn't work like them in this world. When you sign up for Snapchat or TikTok, Instagram, or Discord, it automatically, once you register that account, you're now bound by their terms and agreements, their acceptable use policy, terms of service. And what it's going to tell them, that not that anyone ever reads it, is they just entered into a contract that's irrevocable and perpetual. It can't be broken, and it's forever. So when you say, "I can delete my Instagram account," you can. They can put it back up again, they being Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok. They can also take a picture or a video. When we realize we made a mistake and we go to delete it, but it's gaining a lot of traction, they have the right to repost it again. Very important, and I get in 8th grade they're not thinking about college. I do understand that, but it's very important for them to understand who's watching their social media accounts as they go through this world. And it should start now, these good practices and habits to get into. 9th grade, they're going to start their college track, and colleges are looking, especially now, this year more than ever. And the reason for that is colleges now, a lot of them are not using SATs and ACTs as a guide on who gets admitted. So now we have to look at what are the other things they're looking at to admit students if they're not using the SATs and ACTs. Even some of the Ivy Leagues now aren't using them. And they'll flat out tell you their social media presence is one of the things they're looking at. Another article of the growing reality of colleges and their social media posts. The ACTs, SATs no longer for college admissions. This is, again, them looking it up. And this is from the college admission officers themselves. This is what they're going to tell they asked them, "What do you want our high school students to know about what you're doing?" And they said 3 things. You're never anonymous, it never disappears, and your post can always be found. And that's what we should think before we post things and move on. No one's ever going to see this. It's private. It doesn't work like that. Once we post it, it's out there. Harvard University has one of the lowest acceptance rates of all, except for last year. They weren't the lowest. They also weren't the lowest in applications for the first time in a long time. But all the Ivy Leagues are very tough to get into. This is the actual applications. Admittance rates, very low. A lot of applications are very low admittance rates. And as we go on and we talk, and my middle daughter did very well in school. We're up at Binghamton University, and Binghamton is one of the crown jewels of our SUNY system, extremely hard to get into. And the Michigan Council basically told us they're going to be looking at their social media accounts. They get between 21 and 25,000 applications a year, and they're going to use social media to get that down to the 1,500 they're going to admit. And I told my daughter, they're going to be looking at your social media accounts. Be careful. The 10 most downloaded apps, TikTok is ruling the world. It's taken over. And we're watching Snapchat start to slide, even with our younger, the elementary school now. Instagram started coming back. It's back again. Snapchat started falling out of favor. The important thing is that the rules are for all the apps. You know, when parents ask me, well, which apps are dangerous? Well, which cars are dangerous? It depends what you're doing with it, not the app itself, who you're talking to, the information you're putting out there. TikTok is absolutely unbelievable the way it's growing. But they're, in their world, YouTube is also just as big. YouTube is huge, and it's the forgotten app. They do interact with people on this. There is an extremely amount of content that's completely inappropriate. And if you go into an elementary school and say, you guys on YouTube? Yeah, you on YouTube Kids? No, well, why not? Well, it's not what we want to see. And for them, if you see a threat report, you know, they're very good at keeping from us what they don't want us to see. But if you see something get threatened, you have to let somebody know. And that has been good the last year. The school safety presentations I do, we're seeing a growing trend where the kids are now starting to report things as soon as they see it. And that's a good thing. And anonymous reporting systems, it is a good thing for schools. Bullying, no one should be able to use social media to use social media to destroy someone else's life. That's not what it's about. And just because you know something, you don't post it right away. Think of family members. I have TMZ Sports there. TMZ reported that a Dallas Cowboy coach had died on the field. That's what the family got to see. And it wasn't true. He didn't die on the field. He was still alive. But the family, their first report was that their loved one has passed. So just because we know something, we don't need to put it out there right away. A big part of their world is the information. There is direct and indirect information. Direct information is stuff that comes right back to me, my name, my address, my cell phone number. But there's also indirect information, things about that hint about who I am and what I like to do. And their screen names give away a lot about them before we even get started. And as we get into the grooming process, we'll find that their screen names are their first point of contact. Random people, it's very funny when they go into these game systems and it's multiple players, like Fortnite, where it could be up to 100 players on at a time. And you ask them, who are you playing with? Well, I'm playing with random people. They won't use the term stranger because they know they're not allowed to play or talk to strangers. So they become random people. And, you know, people that we talk and interact with every day, that line between friend and stranger gets awfully fuzzy. And that's part of that grooming process. Your screen names, choose them carefully. I'm not saying to not use things you don't like, but be careful what the conversation is between you and the people in that room. I'm going to get into a story with them about Soccer Girl 19. I'll make it quick here for time's sake. But this young lady decides that at 16 years old, she wants a social media presence, sits down with her parents. And the only thing she puts on her social media is that her username is Soccer Girl 19, and she's from California. So a young man wants to talk to her. He makes his screen name Soccer Boy. Does she talk to him? Yes, that common interest. Is it possible he doesn't know anything at all about soccer? Sure, but they start talking back and forth. They start trading information, little bits of information over long periods of time. And then she tells him her team colors are purple and gold. Never sends him a picture, never tells her where she lives exactly in California, never mentions the school. But my team colors are purple and gold. And as these conversations progress, at one point, she says that both my parents work. Well, what he took it as, I come home by myself from school. That's not information we should be giving out to people we don't know. But again, that line between friend and stranger gets fuzzy. At the end of the soccer season, they come in second place in the California State Championships. And we all like to brag. And she tells him, hey, we came in second place. He says, that's great. And now he Googles team colors purple and gold, California, second place, California State High School. And he gets her high school. From the high school, he goes to the girls' soccer page, and her jersey number is 19. It's not a made-up number. It is relative to her. We're just going to figure out how, and he did through the soccer jersey number. Very important to understand their social media presence, that digital footprint, how one mistake can come back and hurt them over and over again. Even at young ages, it comes back later on in life. ESPN, this is one of the things I'm going to show them in a little while. When I tell them that nothing ever gets deleted, this is unfortunately one of those stories. We have a football coach from Tennessee, and he decides to tweet something he shouldn't have tweeted. So what he does then, he realizes he makes a mistake, so he deletes the tweet, and he also deletes his whole Twitter account, figuring he's safe. Well, he's not. There's the tweet. And the question is, how did I get it? If he deleted everything, I'm not a computer expert. Well, it's on Google Images. They're allowed to share it again. It started driving traffic to their site, so they brought it back again. And what did, his family, they lost their paycheck, their health insurance, their pension, all over a tweet, something on social media. We got to be careful what we're doing. Just this March, this young girl gets to the pinnacle of her career. She becomes the editor of Teen Vogue. And just like that, people went back almost 10 years old tweets, and she deleted her account. But again, how could she delete them? You can't. These are the tweets that she thought she deleted. Nothing ever gets deleted, and she lost her job over this. October Sky is a movie. Jake Gyllenhaal plays Homer Hickman, a young kid from West Virginia. His father's in the coal mines. He wants him to be a coal miner, and Homer Hickman wants to build rockets. I wish this girl would have seen this movie, because what happens is we have a young lady who gets into NASA. This internship is one of the most sought after, hardest internships to get. 99% don't even hear back from NASA, but she gets accepted. And how she expresses her excitement, I could think of 100 ways, but this wouldn't be one. And this is what she posts for everyone to see. And again, you got accepted into NASA. We need to do a better job here. Now, what happens is she's going to get a warning. One word back, and the word is language. You better be careful what you're posting. Everyone's watching it. And it's from Homer Hickman. But what she should have done is looked up, I wonder who Homer Hickman is. That's not what she does. Now, the next slide, the kids aren't going to see. This is the actual conversation between him and her. But again, the 8th graders, I only show this to the high school seniors and parents. There's no kids on here, right? So this is the thread that I got accepted. He tells the language, then she tells him basically where to go and how to get there. Well, who are you? Well, I'm on the National Space Council that oversees NASA. That's who she just told to stick it. So what happens, her friends hashtag this conversation. They thought it was funny. Hashtag NASA. She deletes it. She realized she made a mistake. But as I've been telling these kids all along, it's too late. Once it's there, it's there. And NASA withdrew their offer. So the press pretty much gets on Homer Hickman, says, why'd you tell on her? Why'd you do this? He says, I didn't tell anybody. It's a young person who didn't understand how powerful social media is. So the question is, how did NASA find out? When her friends hashtag that conversation, hashtags are always public. You can't make them private. NASA sets up what's called Google alerts on all incoming interns. So they can see anytime they post something or their name gets mentioned in a post. Through that hashtag, NASA saw the conversation between her and Homer Hickman, and that's how she lost her scholarship, her internship, just like that. So she shouldn't have done it, but she did. Go ahead. Somebody want to say something?
No.
So now what happens is the friends think it's funny. That hashtag is what cost her internship. But again, she should have looked up who Homer Hickman was before she decided to send that tweet back. I deal with a lot of social workers. That's normally who I deal with in schools. With you guys, I dealt a lot with Dr. Shields. But most of the schools, it's the social workers or guidance counselors who call me in. And I get a call not too long ago. She's very upset, and she thinks that one of her kids is going to have a problem. What happens is this young man commits to a Division I lacrosse program, Johns Hopkins University. He's going to go for free for a scholarship, and he's going to play lacrosse there. And, National Signing Day for our athletes is a very big day. It's a huge day in their life. It's good for them, good for the families. They get to pick their colleges. They don't have to pay. So a couple weeks go by, and this young man is sitting around the fire pit with a bunch of friends, and they're drinking. And somebody decides to video this conversation between him and his friends. And he says some stuff he really, really shouldn't have said. And of course, the friends post it on YouTube. The student body sees this and they're offended by it. They go to the principal. And then they felt the principal didn't take the proper action. Here's the thing. With FERPA, you can't tell anybody what the punishment was. You're not allowed. But the students didn't feel it was right. So they sent a link to the YouTube video to Johns Hopkins University. And with that, he lost his scholarship and admissions to that college. This Ohio doctor decided that she's going to say some really nasty stuff in 2011. She progresses through, she graduates med school, and of course they come back. Ohio revokes her medical certificate and she'll never practice medicine again. This is all over her social media presence. This is the grooming process. And for the parents out there, for educators, we've seen a lot of conversations between 12 and 16-year-olds and people they just shouldn't be talking to. The stories, it's always there, but for some reason during the pandemic, it got really, really bad. Roblox, one of the games, I know our high school, middle school isn't really using it anymore. Our elementary school kids are, but we had a dad sign on as his son to see what was going on. And the conversations back and forth were absolutely disgusting. He had no idea that these pedophiles were in Roblox looking for these little kids. And the things they were saying was absolutely horrible. And the parents will tell you why I blocked the conversation. Well, if they have Discord, you didn't block anything because through Discord, they can still talk to everybody in the game. This is a dad who basically said, you know, I heard a lot about this stuff. I didn't really put too much effort into teaching my kid. This is a conversation between his 11-year-old daughter and an adult. And it goes back and forth to the point where they become friends. And then he decides that he's going to ask her to meet him outside. At 11 years old, her and a friend climb out a window. They go meet this guy, and he takes her into an abandoned gas station. This is a 16-year-old who meets a guy online, and that grooming process. I'm going to get into your world. I'm going to make you think we're friends. It's going to take me a long time. I have nothing but time. They become boyfriend, girlfriend online. He sends her a plane ticket, and without her parents' permission, gets on a plane and flies to London to go meet this guy. You know, we talk about strangers with these kids a lot from when they're elementary school to now, and that conversation changes depending if they're home by themselves, coming to the door, packages. But the one thing that we always say, would you ever get into a car with a stranger? Of course, they'll always say, absolutely not. I would never get into a car with a stranger. Well, here we have a 14-year-old, and the title's going to say kidnapped. He wasn't kidnapped. He's playing with this woman online on Xbox Live. And, you know, again, that line between friend and stranger gets awfully fuzzy. And they drive, her and a friend drive 13 hours, pull in front of his house, beep the horn, he jumps in the car and off they go. We could say kidnapping. He got groomed the whole way. He honestly believed that, you know, this was a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. And just this year, this is, you know, sometimes these detectives go above and beyond. And if it wasn't for this detective, I don't think we would have ever found this girl. This guy absolutely was relentless. She met this guy online, and they end up finding her in a motel room. And the thing is, there's a body cam video of when they walk in and find him and her. I'm not going to show the video, but if you ever want to look it up online, it's pretty disgusting. But it is that grooming and why she went with him in the first place. She thought it was her boyfriend. We had it again, and this time in Ohio, the guy she met was ICE. And he pretends to be a teenager. Now, we've seen this over and over again where he asked me to send a picture, so I send a picture of somebody else. You have no idea who you're talking to. And she goes and meets this guy at 14. This is the guy she went. It turns out that 10 other kids were talking to him when she went to go meet him. This is right here from Long Island. We have a 14-year-old young lady who decides that she's going to friend this guy on Instagram. And at one point she says to him, send me a picture. And he does send a picture of himself, but he uses the lighting in his room and the filters on Instagram to make himself look a lot younger. And then he asks her to meet at Roosevelt Field Mall. Just as fate would have it, her father has this tracking app on her phone, but he didn't really look at it all too often. Well, this day he looks at it. He sees the conversation between him and her. He doesn't like it, so he calls the Nassau County Police. And in comes my friend, Detective Badalucco. Detective Badalucco works for the Internet Crimes Against Children section. And he's looking at the text message between the two. He said, there's really no crime here, but tell him you'll meet at the mall. I'll go meet him and let's see who this guy is. And when she gets to the mall, she was going to meet a 31-year-old registered sex offender. That's who she's been talking to the whole time back and forth. Who's watching your social media accounts? Well, the answer is everybody, just not at the same time. Depends what's going on. You know, under DASA, The schools could be looking at if we have an incident on or off school property. The police could be looking at if there's a criminality involved of being reported to them. Certainly, private high schools are looking into it. Colleges, even your grad schools and employers are looking. So when we say who's what, the answer is everybody, just not at the same time. This is the beginning of the pandemic, and this guy decides to go to Hawaii, and there's a mandatory 14-day quarantine, and he jumps in his bathing suit, jumps out to the beach. He takes a picture of himself, he posts it, and he gets arrested for violating the 14-day quarantine. So the governments are watching it. Hempstead Village Worker, insensitive Facebook. It's important for me that they realize everybody's watching what you're putting. Be very careful what we're posting here. This is a young lady who gets her dream job. She's 25 years old. She gets into the Little Rock, Arkansas Police Department. She's 2 weeks from graduating. And for some reason, they decided to go through her social media accounts. And what they found verbatim song lyrics from a Lil Wayne song. Well, they decided they didn't like it. And being in the police academy, you get fired at any time, and they fire her. The thing is, she posted that when she was 16 years old. That post was 9 years old, and it was actual song lyrics, and she still lost the job over that. This just happened. March of this year, we had 3 college professors who attended a Halloween party in 2014, and their costumes were offensive. The kids found it, they posted it, and all 3 lost their jobs. Not too long ago, we have all these challenges, and just so we all know here, some of the TikTok challenges, not only are they dangerous, they're disgusting. I won't get into them. They're vile, and I don't want them going looking for it if they don't know about it. But one of them, they're sticking utensils into electrical outlets to see what happens. 3 of them have started house fires already. A couple other ones are called the Skull Breaker Challenge, where they'll have their friends stand in between the 2 of them and tell them to jump up and down together. And as the middle one jumps, they both kick his or her feet out from under them, and they fall and hit their head, and that's why they call it the Skull Breaker, but people are getting hurt. This was the ice cream challenge not too long ago. This they will see, where we're going to go to a supermarket or a 7-Eleven. We're going to eat ice cream and put it away, but we're going to put it on YouTube. Can the police use your YouTube accounts against you? The answer is yes. So they would post it. Anytime you mess with food, it's a felony, and now you just gave the police and prosecution everything they needed to prosecute you, besides being disgusting. This is Hannah Sabata. Now, this video is actually still on YouTube. Hannah decides to, on her own YouTube channel, and I'll bet you most of your students have their own YouTube channels by now. Hannah decides on her own YouTube channel to put out a video, and she calls it Chick Bank Robber. And in this video, for 7 minutes, she's going to tell us that she stole a car and she robbed a bank, and she's now holding $5,000 as proceeds from that bank robbery. Well, the thing is, she did steal a car and she did rob a bank. Can the police and prosecution use this? Yes, she's serving 10 to 20 years in prison. Not that you should go robbing banks, but she gave them all the evidence they needed. One of my favorite Instagram stories of all, Snapchat stories, is this guy is running from the police, committed a burglary, is running from the police, and he runs into another house. The police go in and they can't find him. Well, it turns out it's his own house. And he puts out over Snapchat that these dumb cops can't find me, hiding out in his cabinet. But the police are on Snapchat too, so they went back in and they arrested him out of that cabinet. So he kind of got himself arrested. Privacy. What is private? Well, nothing's private. We can set all the privacy settings and policies that we want. A privacy policy is not telling us how private they're going to make us. It's actually, if you ever read it, will tell us how much of our information they're selling to other people and other companies. A privacy setting is nowhere near as private as they think it is, because once they share it with somebody else, it's now can become public very easy. But also for law enforcement, this is the Facebook online request. This is all Facebook has to do, and they'll get the, Facebook will freeze this person's account for 30 days. They won't give the police any information yet, but they will freeze this account. Nothing can be added or subtracted. And now the police have 30 days to get a subpoena, a court order, or a search warrant to get into these accounts. And once they're in, they're in. This is Instagram, same exact thing. Snapchat, TikTok, they all have it. But there's also an emergency request. If there's a threat and the threat is imminent, you don't need to wait. The police can send it in, and they'll get the account holder and the IP address right away. We're also going to get a little bit into cyberbullying today. I mean, the bullying is in and of itself a separate program. Some of the stuff going on, it's just to make them aware of their internet interactions with their friends, peers, people they know, people on their sports teams. And in the end, when remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. I'm going to tell them this means, getting bullied and picked on hurts, but when no one stands up for us, that hurts just as much. This is Amanda Todd. Amanda Todd's story is very sad from start to finish. This is a 3-year process that happens to Amanda, where she starts in one school. She meets a friend online. She takes a nude of herself. She sends it to him, and he makes that his profile picture. And that was the beginning of the unrelenting bullying that this girl faces for the next 3 years. That started in 7th grade and went on until 10th. So what happens is Amanda gets a knock on the door from the police department, and they tell her, hey, your picture's all over the place. You better be careful. Well, that's not really helpful. You didn't really do anything to help this girl, and then add more anxiety to her world. So what the parents decide to do is they decide to move. The bullying and cyberbullying is relentless. It's not stopping. So they move halfway across the country, and it starts all over again. Unfortunately, in their world, social media catches up very quickly with them. And that fresh start turned out not to be such a fresh start. So they decide to move a 3rd time. And again, it catches up with them right away. But this is where I froze. This is a 9-minute video. It's called Amanda Todd, My Struggle. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the Amanda Todd story. The reason I show this to them here, it says, I have nobody, I need someone. If you ever see this online, is this somebody asking for help? Yes. Is somebody screaming for help? Is it okay the next day in school to say, Amanda, I saw your video? Because we're not going to see it. They're going to see it. I have this great principal. I have this great social worker. I have this great coach, this great nurse. I'll go with you. We can go talk. Somebody could have done that for her. And if it's too awkward to do by yourself, then you and your best friend go up to her. Hey, I saw your video. You okay? Come on, we can go talk to this teacher, assistant principal. We can go get you some help. But that's not what happened to Amanda Todd. Amanda Todd posts that video. It's 9 minutes of flashcards, her telling her story. It's an incredibly sad story. And a month after this, Amanda Todd does commit suicide. But the death of Amanda Todd, I'm not going to get into that with them. I am going to get into, you see somebody who needs help, it's okay to tell somebody or to see if you can help while you're in school with them. This is from Phoebe Prince. I can't take much more of this. Again, is this somebody asking for help in a school setting? And Phoebe was in 9th grade in Massachusetts, and she was asking for help. She was having a terrible time to the point where 6 get charged in her death. It was the first time ever, this is Massachusetts, where for bullying, they're going to charge 6 teens. They actually charge them with murder, and then they drop the charges down. But it was very interesting that the 6 teens involved in this, after this incident, all their lives went terribly wrong, absolutely horribly wrong. One young lady headed for college was denied because the judge called her the primary tormentor in this court case. Another young man had a football scholarship all lined up, and after this, they rescinded his scholarship and admission.
John, I have
Yes.
to jump in because your next presentation is going to start in 5 minutes.
Okay.
So
One quick story here with Roseanne. This was the #1 show on TV. And for people working TV, when you're the #1 show, you have job security, something you don't often find in TV shows. So from the set designers to the costumes, to the security, to the people who are taking care of the live audience. And because one member decided to send out a tweet, ABC cancels the show, and all those people lose their job. So your bullying does have consequences to other people also. Okay, Bob, I can sign off. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, let's do, if we could just do maybe 5 minutes of questions. This way
Great.
parents have questions for you, and
You know,
then.
you have
Get ready
3
to
minutes
walk
of questions.
Okay, cool.
I have a question. What happens? Oh, Officer Gershon, thank you, first of all.
Oh, thank you for inviting me back. Your school district's great.
And then stop sharing your screen for a second. So my question is, what happens if another teen posts a picture of some other teen? So it's an incriminating picture, but it's not posted by the person, it's posted by somebody else.
Yeah,
what are the
well-
consequences, or how does that get handled if it's an incriminating photo? by addressing it with Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat? How
If
does
we're
that work?
talking, if we're talking something criminal and it gets posted, then the police and prosecution have every right to use that. And again, I would hope that they'd be I don't want them to go out and commit crimes, but I do believe, and even when I talk to the seniors, there's some rights you need to keep. Listen, kids make mistakes, and there's rights that need to be kept intact. They need to be careful not to post those other things to their friends. Once it's out there, it's out there. There's no getting it back. And it's not just for that, it's for civil suits also. You see people getting dragged into civil suits over stuff they posted that they probably shouldn't have posted anyway. So, anybody else have I see the chats are here.
We
Yes,
can
sir.
read you the questions. We can read you the questions.
Okay.
Yeah.
That will help you.
So the question is, what about kids who can create a fence to a fake Instagram account and no one will link it back to them? Is that true?
That's not true. Matter of fact, New York State and California, it is a crime to start a social media account in somebody else's name right off the bat. So they can be held to that standard. There's also a civil suit that can come out of that. So no, in New York and California, you start an account in somebody else's name. Now remember something, there's always a trace back to where it got started. We just have to go through the right, again, that search warrant, that court order, or the subpoena to get into. It's not as easy as it sounds. They don't just give us the information. But once the case gets started and a judge says, okay, you can get a search warrant, then they're going to get into those accounts. And Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, they do not like dealing with the police in the beginning. But once they get the court order, they will comply.
All right, John, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to cut you off because you're going to have to sign off of this meeting and log into the next.
Okay.
Thank you. It's been
And parents,
terrific.
good news. Officer Groshans is going to be talking to our kids. So this information is going to be sent to them. So you can have a conversation with your child over the next couple of weeks or months. We'll let you know when he's going to be talking to them so you can follow up.
Thank you.
John is
Thanks
going to
for
be
the great
talking
turnout.
to the 8th graders in 2 minutes.
All right.
So
Thank you,
the
guys.
8th graders are seeing it today because that was one of the questions. The 8th graders are seeing the presentation today. And
I'm going to leave so I can sign on to the other one. I'll
thank
see
you.
guys.
Thank you. And we will be bringing it, we wanted to see how it went with the 8th grade before we brought it to the 6th and 7th graders. We normally have done this presentation in person. It's the first time we're doing it online. So we wanted to make sure that it was done well and that kids could really understand the severity of what is happening with computers and online.
And if we didn't get to your questions and they're really important to you, then just reach out and email either Alana or myself at the Weber HSA, and we'll make sure we find answers for you.
Right. And we could possibly also bring him back if there's a ton of questions. We could maybe bring him back for another meeting where maybe he just does a question and answer and not necessarily a presentation.
So
So
that was a lot.
I agree with Ms. Waters, I agree with you. We want this presentation. I actually think it needs to start before 6th grade. So anyone that has elementary kids, I mean, as he's writing, I'm sitting there scribbling down all these different apps and things like that. So the internet is in our kids' hands, especially now that they're home more, but anyone that has an iPad, anyone that, I mean, you talked about, he talked about Among Us. I know that's a huge game for elementary kids. Roblox is a huge game for elementary kids. So it's more than just middle school. And this is an issue that we as parents really need to try to help our kids understand the severity of it and what can happen. A parent asked, am I invading their privacy if I check their cell phone? It's not their cell phone, it's yours. You pay the bill. So no, I think you have every right to check what's going on their phones. You have every right to check their history. You have every right to put limits on their phones or iPads on what they're allowed to do, not do. I think that's really important. And if your child won't share a password with you, I'd be concerned what they're doing on their phones or on an app that they're doing. Oh, that's interesting. I could certainly speak to that teacher and find out as to why they're doing that. But I believe if we teach the kids the right way to use the technology and teach them the good and the bad of it, I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it brings us a lot of good things, but I think it's important that we teach them right from wrong. and I believe that we can't be not my child. We have to know that this is happening. Children make mistakes. They're young. They need to learn. So I think it's important that the conversation continues. All right, so I'm going to go back to the top of the questions because we started with a whole bunch of questions in the beginning, and we could keep talking. Could be on both topics. I have no problem with that.
Yes, so we want to just finish up with Claudia's question originally before we kind of jump to Officer Gershon's about
Correct.
going back to the 8th graders.
We don't, right now we're on pause for everything. So it's not that it's not happening for all grades. We're just on pause while we're understanding what the guidelines are that the new guidelines that the state put out. I actually have a meeting right after this once, to continue talking about it. We believe that students should be back in the building as a whole, not just one grade or the other. There are reasons why we've had to put it on hold, that we would not be in compliance with the CDC and New York State guidelines. Please describe commencement. So right now, based on the guidelines, there are going to be multiple graduations. And as soon as we have more information, we will certainly share that with you. New guidelines came out. I think, Kathy, what did we have a meeting at 8:45, and then all of a sudden at I don't know, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, a new guidance came out. So every day we're getting new guidance. We don't want to put information out that's too soon, that's going to change. Graduation traditionally is the Thursday before the last week of school. As of Friday, I had to do 7 graduations. We were trying to figure out if we could do less than 7 graduations. Students will be invited to different graduations. I do not believe we will have 1 graduation. The Regents, Common Core Algebra and Earth Science both fall out in the morning on Wednesday and Thursday. So we're aware of that. We will not have a graduation where a student can't attend because of they're taking the Regents. And it will only be 2 family members that will be allowed for graduation. That I can tell you for sure. And then from there, what happens, whether there's testing of families in order to be part of graduation, that's all the stuff we're working out. So as soon as we have more information, we will certainly get it out to the families.
And then are we doing pods if they go back?
So it's a hard conversation to have right now because I made a video, I had the whole plan ready to go, and then I was told to put a halt on it. We have a survey ready to go. We were told to put a halt on it. So we're really waiting for more guidance right now. The plan that we had in place is that students would be staying in pods and there would be minimum movement. The guidelines say something different. So we really have to wait to fully unpack the guidelines and see what we're able to do.
And I'm not sure if you could speak to this, but I think other districts in Nassau County are back in school and they're middle and high school level, and parents are wondering what's the difference between us and the other districts.
There is no difference. It's that they're not following guidelines and we are. A lot of these districts went back in before the new guidelines came into effect. Whether or not other districts are going to now change back to a hybrid, I don't have the information on. I don't work in those districts. But I believe that our Board of Ed and our superintendent wants to make sure that we are keeping all children safe and following the state guidelines. And there's a question. I'm sorry, there's a question about Regents test opt-outs. And if they opt out, will they have to take the test at a later date? No, they will get credit for the class. They will still be eligible to get a Regents diploma. They will still be able to get, what is it, the High Honors Regents diploma. I don't know if I'm saying the right name for it. I'm being educated on all the different diplomas, but they could still get the advanced diploma, providing they have the grades on the other Regents that they need to take. So there is no harm in taking it and there is no harm in not taking it. That will be a parent's decision.
So there's no disadvantage to them not taking it. The parents want to know.
Correct.
Okay.
Is there an option to continue hybrid if the school goes fully remote? Right now, I'm going to talk about what it was. The 2 options were that you're either in or you're fully remote. Just so you know, the hybrid piece of it, which I know I don't know if parents really understand. So you're coming in, you're still going to be with a class of 28 the days you come in. It's very confusing from a teacher, from a standpoint. You can't really plan activities or plan lessons for in the class piece of it. you know, when our whole plan was devised that you're teaching to the kids that are in front of you. And the fully virtual kids, some of them are doing okay, some of them are not. You know, they're screened in, their cameras are on the board so they can see what the teachers are writing. But we really believe that students should be in school and are ready to be in school. And we know that most students are more successful by being in school. It's also middle school. Consistency is really important, and structure is really important for middle school students. So for a student to be in one day, not be in one day is really confusing for a child. And when they see their peers in and they're not in, that causes more social emotional issues for the students. So we really believe that when we go all in, that it's an all in or you're remote.
And just in this moment, can a child switch from hybrid to full remote or vice versa if they wanted to, just to like get into today's question?
So if you would like to change to come back in a hybrid fashion right now, you certainly could do that. Just email your assistant principal, and that's not a problem. And if you feel you would want to go to remote, that's, you know, you could email your assistant principal. Q4 just started, so we will extend that period a little bit longer for you if you feel that way. I do want to stress though, the numbers are high in Nassau County. Some people say the numbers are high in Port Washington. There has been zero evidence that there has been any spread at Weber Middle School. So I'm confident to say that. I believe that our plan has kept everyone safe. And that is one of the reasons why we felt that we were ready to go all in. Okay.
And sports, that's the next question.
Okay.
Are they starting?
Give me 1 second. I'm just going to go. I have other questions about regions. So I'm just reading the questions that are in the chat, and then we have a presentation. We have a conversation about sports. So hold off to that for 1 second. I read the letter from the district suggesting that the regions being given in science, math, and English this year are pointless. However, what is the disadvantage? So that's really a parent decision again about regions. No different than the New York State exams. You have an option to opt out or not opt out. That's a parent's decision on whether or not you want the child to take the test or not. It has been a challenging year for students. So I believe the opt-out piece was to try to make people feel more, students feel more comfortable and not as stressed this year. John's presentation will be given to the 6th and 7th grade after we see how it goes with the 8th grade. I'm just trying to read through some of these are about the Groshen piece.
We have one about graduation and whether it will be live streamed.
Graduation is, I believe we will live stream it for grandparents and people that are not able to attend.
And then another question while you're looking through that is if a student is awaiting the results of a COVID test and they're required to stay out of school, can they participate remotely while they're waiting on the results of that test?
You just need to get permission from an administrator. So you need to email your assistant principal or myself, and depending on the situation. So if you're getting it for depending on what the reason is, right? So if you have a party that you need to go to and you're waiting for results, that's not a reason to be home because you're not sick. If you're getting it because you're concerned that you're sick, then that would be a reason that you need to be home. So there's different reasons. It's not a black or white answer. It would be a conversation that you would need to have with your assistant principal or myself.
Can we clarify the existing every other Wednesday in-person plan? Is that still in effect?
Of course that is. You got a schedule. The Wednesday schedule that was sent out for the end of the year. So that is still in effect. Those dates are still in effect. It didn't stop because this stopped. So it's the same schedule that was sent out. It is also on our webpage.
And you can check the Weber Weekly. We post it every Monday. Also, is there any consideration to lengthening the periods remotely? Because when they're in remote days, they only have 30 minutes of each. Can you speak to that?
Sure. So the answer to no is no. The reason we put that in is for the extra help. And and teachers are using that to have students stay for extra help. We also don't believe that students should be on the computers for the entire school day from 8 o'clock in the morning till 3:10. It's a lot of computer time. So the reason we made the 30-minute classes was to keep both the extra help in effect, as well as we don't believe that students should be on computers for 6.5 hours every single day.
And how is class placement determined in this new environment?
I don't really understand that question.
Nita, do you want to unmute yourself and ask it? Or reformulate the question? And then,
Good morning. Thank you. I meant if we have a current Weber student and a new Weber student will be coming in, will you try to keep them in the same house or, for,
Oh,
you know,
like
health
you're talking about
reasons and
fifth grade? You're talking about 5th to 6th grade?
oh, yes, sorry, yes. 5th grade coming into 6th grade and we have a current Weber student, like how is that determined?
Sure. We do not place houses based on siblings.
Okay.
There's lots of things that go into placement of our 5th grade students, but we don't, if a student is in whatever, the yellow house, it doesn't, their siblings in yellow house, it does not mean that they automatically go into the yellow house. We actually don't even look at that. Teachers offer extra help. Teachers are supposed to be offering extra help twice a month. So if a teacher teaches multiple grade levels, there are times where a teacher may have multiple grade levels in an extra help. If your child needs more extra help and that's not enough, then I would reach out to the teacher. So we were planning, there's several pieces we were planning that we didn't get to yet about the full return. We had a parent presentation that we were planning on sending out to you on Monday. We were then going to have this meeting so we could have a conversation with you as parents. We were then, Dr. Hines was then going to be meeting with our students to talk about it with our students. He was also going to meet with our staff another time to talk about it as well. And we were also going to be talking as administrators to the students, but we've put all that back on hold until we know what our plan is. But we will certainly be talking to students about that once we roll out the date of the return, including our fully virtual, because I think some of our fully virtual students would like to come back in if we go all in, and that's going to be a hard transition for them as well, since they haven't been in the building at all. So we've taken both groups into account. I do feel confident, though, when we do open up as an all-in, that we're doing it in a safe manner where we're going to keep students and staff safe, and we would not be putting anyone at risk. We'd be following the guidelines fully, making sure that everyone's safe. We don't have that information yet because we have not sent out survey yet. So I can't answer so I'm sorry, the question was, what is the percentage of the fully virtual? Oh, you want to know what, of the flip or of the fully virtual plan? I'm sorry, Ms. Zahner.
Yeah, sorry, I meant fully virtual, like how many people are fully virtual versus at this point, or has that changed a lot?
We have about 16% of our building is fully virtual.
And has that been consistent throughout the year, or has it changed a lot?
It has changed, but it's been pretty consistent. So if we go back all in, the pods are remaining the same. The piece that where pods would be joining would be at lunchtime, but they would be 6 feet apart, as they need to be eating 6 feet apart from everyone. So within the actual classroom, the pods would remain the same. They would just be going from 2 rooms to 1 room, but the pods would be remaining the same. So there are discussions every day, and literally we go day by day. The question is, are there discussions currently regarding upcoming September school year? So every day there's a discussion on what tomorrow is going to bring, and every day it changes. But we are certainly looking at what has worked this year, taking away what's worked this year. Like I said, we had a plan to come all in, and then the state threw us new new guidelines on what we need to do and not do. So my concern is that we are going to make a plan for September, and then July 1, we'll get a new set of regs, and then August 1, we'll get a new set of regs, and it will continue. So as soon as we know information, we will certainly share it. Right now, if they're saying pods are the way to go to keep kids safe, then we would continue that. It was not my intention to continue that for next year.
And is there an idea of when the pause will be resumed?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Should we just put some money on it now?
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I do believe that kids should be back in this building. I mean, I will say that. I think the administrators, we worked really, really hard. You know, in many ways, I'd like to say I lost lots of hours that I will never gain back trying to make this plan work. And I would probably say the 3 assistant principals that are on here today will tell you they would be getting text messages from me at 12 o'clock at night with ideas that would come to my head, trying to figure out what and how we can make this work. And I think I've asked Mr. Mace to measure rooms maybe 1,000 times over and over again to make sure that we were in compliance. So our goal is to bring everyone back. I just don't know. I don't have an answer as to when. I wish I did.
And then what's the school gonna, so we probably should address the shields because there's a lot of questions about the cool plexiglass shields, and then sports, and then we wrap it up.
Okay. Right. Just from a 6th grade question, I'm sorry, this is from Kim. I am aware that 6th graders don't know anything in this building. They really only know how to get to their potted classrooms. We will plan on doing, if the kids are not back in this year, there will be an orientation at some point for our current 6th graders and our current 5th graders so they could learn the building. So how is the school going to deal with the glare from the plexiglass put in place and the fact that children cannot hear the teacher and the fellow students when they speak? So yes, we are very well aware of that. Until we have a definite on whether we're coming in or not coming in will be the decision on when the plexiglasses come off. The district spent a lot of money on it to keep kids safe. And as soon as we know whether we're coming in full or not, will be the decision on when they come off.
Any other questions about the shields? And then
I agree with, I've sat in desks with shields. It is challenging. I'm aware of it. I got in a few emails about it. So we are aware there is a glare. They do move, like shake while the kids are on their desk. I've taken some pictures, so I know what it looks like and feels like. As soon as we could remove them, we will, as we know it is not a great scenario for students.
Thank you. And then sports.
Okay, Mr. Mace, can you fill us in on intramurals, please?
Yes, absolutely. And I know we're over time here, but I will be as concise as possible. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to share my screen for the presentation.
Oh yeah, do I need to do something?
Nope, I think I have access. I'm going to share it right now. Okay. All right, everybody should see the presentation, correct? Great. I'm such a Google Meet user that whenever I have to transition to Zoom, I just got to double check. So the good news is we are going to be rolling out our intramural program very shortly. I know we've had a lot of questions about it, but we are very excited to get back into it. I am on the committee that has been working through a lot of these scenarios. So the first thing I want to share with everybody is our upcoming calendar and the different events, AM and PM, of intramural sports that will be taking place. As you note, it's April 26th. That is still our start date. You'll notice there's an AM session and a PM session group. You'll notice some of the activities are girls tennis, co-ed outdoor basketball, boys soccer, afternoon co-ed outdoor volleyball, adaptive PE, and then the other sports for the second cycle. One thing we're all going to ask that the parents and students keep in mind is that this is very much an extension of our Weber physical education program. In many cases, the supervisors, the coaches, the teachers, they're also going to be our PE teachers. So it's going to really be an extension of this program. And there's a couple of reasons why we chose these sports. So I can get into that. Number one, safety is our number one priority. The intramural program, that was our starting foundation, just like it was for the school year. So the activities are chosen based on a couple metrics. The first being the result of the family interest survey that was sent out back in March. We also wanted to choose sports that would allow for the greatest amount of safe participation. We wanted to maximize the use of our available field space, keeping in mind that we also will have at the same time high school sports running on the various fields. So high school athletics are running on the same fields. We obviously do not want to mix our students with high school students. So that's really something we had to keep in mind. We also want to limit the amount of outside equipment. I'll get into some more details. We actually don't want any outdoor equipment, outside personal equipment coming in. Any equipment will be school provided. That way our teachers can actually sanitize all the equipment between sessions. We also chose games that will allow for small-sided games and pods and contact tracing. So for example, soccer might be 5-on-5, not 10-on-10. Certain sports lend themselves to smaller versions of the game. Okay, so here's our timeline. This week, we actually began to roll it out to our Weber students in PE. Our PE teachers shared this information with the students this week whenever they had gym. Some students obviously will have it today, tomorrow, Friday. They'll get some more information. This Friday, parents will be emailed the Weber Intramural Sports Program, and there will be a sign-up link. There will be a sign-up through Google Form. You'll be able to sign up for Cycle 1 and or Cycle 2 based on your interest. We're going to open up at 8 a.m. and it will close at 3 p.m. on Monday. 421, we'll be meeting with all of the coaches. We're going to be reviewing the safety procedures, the safety guidelines, attendance policies, pods, contact tracing, all of those safety metrics that will be involved. 423, parents and students will be notified of their specific dates, times, and locations for the program. So something you're going to keep in mind is we're very much going to base this off of right now, your child's in-person day. So if we are still in the hybrid model when we begin, it will be on your in-person day we're going to base our schedule. If we do go all in, we will adapt the schedule to a different model that will maximize student participation. 426, like I said, will be our opening day. So here's a sample schedule. Keep in mind you can sign up for a Cycle 1 and a Cycle 2, morning or afternoon. So as you see here, this student chose Cycle 1 AM session, girls tennis, and Cycle 2, they chose a PM session of flag football or ultimate frisbee. Okay, so what you see is they could not do a girls tennis and a co-ed outdoor volleyball because that would be the same session. Okay. And then here you would see something similar. This student signed up for a co-ed volleyball in the PM and then signed up for girls soccer in the AM, the second session. One thing to note about our sessions, AM will start at 7 a.m. We do realize this is before the buses for many students, and PM will end at 4:15. So we do not have late buses. So parents, students will need to arrange their own transportation. I understand some students will be getting off the bus and we will obviously work with those students. Important to note our safety procedures and our protocols. All of this is following New York State guidelines. All supervisors or teachers or coaches will be CPR, AED, first aid certified. Students and staff will wear masks at all times. Our recommendation right now is if they're going to be participating in intramural sport in the morning to bring a second mask to change into in case they do get sweaty. Students must be present in school that day. So for example, a student cannot come into school for intramurals and then go home or vice versa. If it's a remote day, we're not going to ask them to come into the building that day to participate. So it's going to be based on an in-person schedule. And to take part, they must also complete the daily health screening that they do for the school. School day pods, this is important to know. It's open to all grades, but school day pods will be mixed during intramural program. The intramural program will create its own pods. So for example, I might have a group of 5 students playing basketball versus another group of 5 students, and they'll play each other that day. So now that those 10 students I know were together that day, and we'll do that for all of the sports. So we'll always know who's together, and we'll know who was competing that day. So just a couple other details. The students must arrive at their designated location. Late students, because of potting, it's going to be very, very important that we keep our attendance as accurate as possible. So for example, if students come late, we might have to work with that with a separate pod. We don't want to introduce them and then not have accurate attendance. Really important to note, we will also encourage hand washing, sanitation after each individual morning or afternoon session. So for example, when the AM session ends, students will be encouraged to wash their hands, and all the coaches will sanitize the equipment before going to class. And then the locker rooms will not be open. For social distancing reason, we are not using lockers. Because we are not using lockers, we are limiting, and we do not want any outdoor equipment. So for example, we don't want anybody bringing their own tennis rackets. We'll provide tennis rackets, and our coaches will sanitize those rackets. So any questions, you could certainly send them to myself today, or our Weber's athletic coordinator is Mr. Kevin Baudo, and there's his email address and his office number. So I know that was a lot. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I see there are some comments.
Yeah, so Mr. Mace, I'm going to just read some questions for you. Adaptive PE. So students that have adaptive PE, I know that you are going to work on some sessions for them. So can you tell
Yes. So I see the question. So there right now, I can confirm, I confirmed this morning, we're going to be moving one to the afternoon, one to the morning. And also it's really going to be based on those students and what they need. And we're going to really work with those families for what's best for them.
Great, thank you. And then if you sign up for intramurals, do you need to go every single time, or can you go some days and not other days?
Sure. So you're going to get a very specific schedule, and we are going to act similar to a school schedule that you do follow that schedule. Obviously, if your child is not feeling well that day, we would not want them coming to school or to intramurals. But let's just say, I'm just using this as an example, you're scheduled for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We would certainly encourage you, because that's how we're starting our attendance. That's how we would do contact tracing. And there is limited availability for each activity. So if you're not going to use the spot, we would like to give it to somebody who's going to use it to their maximum potential.
Okay, just to confirm, this is open to all grades, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students.
Absolutely correct.
And just confirm again, if they take a bus and it drops them off late, can they still attend their intramural?
Yeah, so we're gonna have to work that out. What we'll do is we're gonna try and arrange pods based on that. So students who are there at 7 a.m. maybe podded, students who are there at 7:15 maybe podded. We obviously are gonna encourage to get there as soon as possible to really maximize their physical activity. We certainly want them to be outside. We want them to be playing. So we're going to encourage that as much as possible. Another reminder, it wasn't the presentation, but I wanted to make sure I mention it. All of this will be taking place outside. So I know you saw, basketball is in there. It's going to be outside on those brand new hoops that were just put up. So everything will be outside for intramurals. So the coaches will be in touch in case of inclement weather. They'll be setting up individual messaging systems, whether it's a Remind Me, most likely. So if there is bad weather, the coaches will notify the teams that they will not have intramurals that day.
Okay, if you're not getting a screening, whether it's on Wednesdays or any other day of the week, please reach out to your assistant principal, and we will make sure that we correct that situation. So parents that they weren't getting the screening on Wednesday.
Yes, please let us know. I do see, how do I sign up? We're going to be sending the email out Friday. It will be a Google Form survey.
Okay. So just based on quarantining, so whether it's quarantining because of a sport or quarantining because of a classroom, every single situation is a situation that we investigate. We report the findings to the Department of Health, and they tell us whether or not we have to quarantine. So we can't give specifics on if this happens, will we quarantine? If this, we don't know those answers, but they ask us specific questions. Are you 6 feet apart? Are they masked? Were you outside? Were you inside? So once we do all of those investigations, that's when we'll know if someone has to quarantine or not. So it's possible if they're too close outside for X amount of time that they would have to quarantine. But we wouldn't really know that until the situation arises.
And something I want to note, there is a question about will they be grouped by grade? So that may not always be possible. So for example, if I have one 6th grade student who really wants to play ultimate frisbee or flag football, and 12 7th grade students, and that happens to be the in-person day. So some grades will be mixed depending on the signups. Similar for tennis. I'm certainly not going to tell one 8th grade student that they cannot participate because there's only 7th graders or 6th graders participating that day. So we want to be as inclusive as possible.
All right.
I have a question because you said space is limited. If you have more students sign up than you can take, how will you determine who gets the spots?
Sure. So I didn't give exact numbers. It is a large number of students that we will be able to accommodate. There will be a first come, first serve, but with that being said, that's why we're going to rotate the schedule. That's why there's multiple cycles, multiple activities. We want everybody to be able to participate. That is our goal. That's what we're striving for. We have the staff to do it. We're pretty sure we have the space to do it. And we're going to make this work to the fullest potential. So with that being said, if I get 100 students that sign up for flag football, well, the good news is 25 can come on Monday, 25 can come on Tuesday, 25 can come on, and it could work out that way.
And if we need to open up more, like if the numbers are so large and we need to open up another session and close a session of a different sport, that's all workable as well. All right. So on that note, I'm gonna end with as soon as a plan is developed and we know whether we're coming in or not coming in, if the decision is that we are coming in full, I will certainly send out a video explaining the plan and then open it up to another HSA meeting where we can have some questions. So if there's something not on the calendar, we will certainly make a meeting for that, because I want to be able to make sure that I can answer all your questions and that you feel safe and comfortable with having your students in this building. So as soon as we have information, we will certainly share that with you. We're certainly not holding back information from you, but I don't really have information to give you.
Understood. And then one last question for Mr. Mace. Can kids request to be with their friends during sports?
Wow, great question. So on one hand, we certainly want to encourage students to meet new people. They've been in pods all school year. But on the other hand, I certainly understand the anxiety of being dropped off and here's 20 new friends. So while right now our survey does not have a spot for that, what I advise is certainly reach out to myself, the assistant athletic director, Mr. Schwarzweiser, or Mr. Baudo. Send us an email. Let us know, if they want to be with somebody, we might be able to work it out. Now, the important thing to note is both students would have to sign up for that sport. If one student signs up for girls tennis in the morning and the one signs up for outdoor volleyball in the afternoon, we would not be able to facilitate that. However, we want to do the best we can to give everyone an opportunity to meet new people, have friends, also feel comfortable playing.
Awesome. So everyone, we have to vote on the school board. So keep your information, the school board budget, sorry. So keep your eyes peeled for all that information of voting on the school board budget. That's something that's coming up. And then as the HSA, we have exciting Move-A-Thon action happening in May and more staff appreciation, because thank you to everyone on the call, parents and staff, Mr. Mace, Mr. Circoni, everyone Mr. Thornton, and of course, Principal Javeline. Thank you for everything you're doing, and parents.
And I know I'm just going to I know that there's a lot of mixed feelings about what's going on here. And it was in my email yesterday to you, my short, quick little email. We need to support each other in this. We're a team. We want the best for your children. And it's really hard when we're getting beat up time and time again on Facebook and on different messages. We should be a team. We want what's right for your children. Your children shouldn't be brought into this and shouldn't be, talking bad about the, Weber or Schreiber or the district. They're here. I know you have feelings about certain things. I promise you, we are trying to do things that are in the best interest of your child and really trying to get the students back in this building and do it safely.
And if you have any questions, always reach out to Kathy or Alana, myself or Alana, and we're available. So we're in it together. Thank you, everybody. And
Thank
for
you.
that, have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine. Get out and start moving now.
Thank you.